but just give us a couple of seconds. So just to give a little bit of background about me before we get into the presentation today, my name is Kavel Brown. I sit on the LinkedIn Social Impact team. It's an honor and a pleasure to serve on this team. I've been on the team for a month, and it's funny enough. I actually used to work at HBO and Viacom CBS on their social impact team. So I bring my kind of entertainment lens to this as well, because I know a lot of folks are like, how do I break into the industry? Like, how do I get in? So definitely having some time in the industry in that way, and I'm just happy to be here and present to you. And I hope that this presentation is edifying for you, that you learn a lot from it, and after, even feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can continue the conversation. Just really appreciate you here. But given the time that we have today, I'm going to get into it. So today I'm going to be presenting just a LinkedIn 101. Like, what is LinkedIn? How can you leverage it to what's your career transition, and what you're trying to do, the goals and the careers that you're trying to get to, and it's specifically for the veteran and military spouses community. Like, how do you make that the most of your career transition? So what we do at LinkedIn is that we help you tell your professional story and build your brand on LinkedIn, as well as, we try to help you recruit, build, and maintain your professional network. Understand, like, how do you get that in, or that boot in the door, right, to the career opportunities that you have, and how do you grow your industry knowledge, right, with LinkedIn Learning, of taking that product and saying, hey, like, how do I learn about the place that I want to be? So why LinkedIn? Like, why am I in front of you? Why is this why do we think this platform is great? Why is it of value to you? And with, like, we have this team called the Economic Graph, where we try to digitally map out what the economy looks like. And these numbers are a little bit outdated, but we have about 800 members, so people on the platform, like users. There's 90,000 schools, there's 11 million jobs, there's 2.9 million groups, 50 million companies are on LinkedIn. So it's a big place of, like, the marketplace, the labor market of, like, how does this show up? How are all these people coalescing and coming together? And they do that on LinkedIn. So, like, we have a really good understanding of the digital representation of the economy around the world. And what our vision is, that we want to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. So we want, like, how does everyone achieve a career? How do they get a job? We want no one to be left out, whether that's veteran folks, military spouses, whether that's refugees, whether that's all types of folks. So we want people to be like, how do they actualize the dreams and the careers that they want to achieve? And another reason to this is, like, employers use LinkedIn, right? We know that 97% of Fortune 500 countries use LinkedIn for recruiting and sourcing talent, right? So it's like we are the main source of, like, folks coming in, top companies in the world, to say, hey, how do I find people to be a part of this? And there's 1.6 million talent professionals and, like, 50,000 small businesses to find talent on LinkedIn. So it's like, hey, like, if people want jobs, they want industry knowledge, they want to create community, they come to LinkedIn. And we know that through our data, like, people are 4 times more likely to get hired at a company where they had a connection, and we are that connections place. So service members and spouses connected jobs, right? Like, there's 140 million job applications submitted every month on LinkedIn. There's 34 million people looking for jobs every week. More than 55 million companies have pages on LinkedIn, and they have millions of available jobs every day. And nine out of 10 employers using LinkedIn during the hiring process. So again, we are integral into people sitting at the seat at the table of opportunity, and connecting with the people who have those opportunities and want to be a part of different ecosystems. And more than 50% of hiring managers use LinkedIn profiles to qualify job seekers. So it's like we are part of this labor market and job ecosystem for every industry under the sun. So what does it mean to tell your story and be found by others? And that's kind of like, that's your LinkedIn profile, which we're going to get into a little bit now. And we created a webpage where you have LinkedIn /military, where you can kind of really see how you like the full breadth of this conversation, and this resource is on there. So if you remember one thing, go to linkedin.com/military, and you get really specific and bespoke content that's specific for you. So really want to underscore that before we go even further. But and one thing I also want to underscore is that as a veteran, you have the benefit of LinkedIn Premium, right? And what LinkedIn Premium allows you to do is have access to 50,000 expert-led learning conversations and courses. You can DM people directly. You can find out who's doing your profile. It is a game changer when it comes down to finding your next play, going into the industry, learning with different people. Like, it really puts you a cut above. And as a veteran, you get that for free, y'all, for free. So that's something I definitely want to underscore through this presentation. So how does one get this premium benefit, right? So we use this platform called ID.me, which is a third-party vendor that we use to verify veteran folks, right? So it's like you go to LinkedIn.com/veteran, /military, and you log in through this ID.me, enter create your account, right? And then you get LinkedIn Premium. And we can walk through that, but we use this platform in order to validate your service. So going into the actual profile and what it is, like, there's a big difference between a link, because most people think LinkedIn is like a virtual version of a resume. And I think that's a good place to hold on to an idea of what it is, but really it's like, how do you tell your complete story about who you are as a professional, right? And it speaks to all employers. It's not just single on like a resume. It goes into more detail about the skills and projects and interests, like things that you can't fit on that one page of your resume, and allows you to like actually interact with people and not just go through a job portal. It's like, hey, like, how do I talk to a recruiter? How do I talk to a hiring manager? How do I talk to a director, a producer, a casting director, right? Like, it allows you that access, and it allows you to tell your story before you even get that access to connect with that person. So that's really the difference between a profile and a resume, and that's something to really keep hold as you navigate the platform. So what you want to do is build a LinkedIn profile that tracks employers and tells your story. So that's like taking a great photo, write a great headline, write a summary, and we'll go through all of this. Update your job description and company info, and add your skills. So hold on, did it skip? Sorry, y'all. Okay, we're good. So big thing is the photo. And look at that little stat right there. It says members with profile photos have up to 21 more profile views and 9 times more connection requests when they have a photo, right? So we really encourage you to say, like, take a great photo, but especially for military folks, it's, we definitely want something that's you're smiling, something that's, a background that's not distracting. And when it says just for the job that you want, think about, like, if you want to go into banking, what are folks in banking, kind of how they're presenting themselves on LinkedIn? If you want to go, like, you all want to go into entertainment, maybe have something that's a little bit more creative, right? Maybe throw out a turtleneck, right? Maybe, wear like a cool jacket, right? Because of how laid back the media and entertainment industry is, right? So you want to dress for the industry and the job that you want, and you definitely don't want to take photos in your camis, right? Like, or your gear, right? You definitely want to be like smiling, professional, like, hey, like, I am in the workforce, I'm part of the civilian world now, and really be want that good profile picture to come about. And like, how are folks presenting themselves in the industry that you're going into? So taking great photos is very key. So your headline, so you have your photos, like, okay, like, here's Kayvel's face, who is he, right? And this is my colleague Sarah Roberts who was going to join. It highlights your professional identity. It's who you are versus what you do. So it's 5 to 10 sentences to say, like, okay, in a nutshell, like, how can I understand who Kayvel is, or who this person is that I'm looking at their profile? And it leads you wanting to attract employers. It's like, hey, like, I am an aspiring media professional who does production work, and I'm a servant leader and a former veteran, right? Like, that could be somewhat of a headline, which gives people a synopsis of who you are. And you may want to include, like, actively seeking employment, because that lets recruiters know that you're, like, trying to get a job or like a career. And then you also want to avoid solely saying transitioning veteran or student veteran, because that's a term that, like, recruiters and other folks don't necessarily know about. And you want to be able to appeal to have yourself appeal as much as possible to different folks, and they might not understand that terminology. So definitely avoid transitioning veteran or student veteran, because they might not have the knowledge of what that means. So that's the headline, best practices. And then, so the next piece after your profile, so you have your photo, you have your headline, and you have your summary. And your summary is a 40-word elevator pitch. So they look at you like, okay, Kayvel does social impact. I know what he looks like, but who I have an understanding of who he is, but like, what's his story? And it kind of talks through your communication, your professional brand and experiences. It focuses not just on your accomplishments, but also like what you want to do, who you want to be, what you want to see in the world. It's usually future and positive. It's exciting your network to say like, I want to learn more about him. I want to learn more about KV. I want to learn more about this person on LinkedIn, and I want to talk to them a little bit more. And it's a really great tool to kind of again tell your story more than like a resume could, but like who you are on the platform. So now you're moving further through the platform and so you want to highlight your work and volunteer experiences. So members with industry information receive up to 9 times more profile views. People find you when you say, hey, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've been a part of HR. I've been a part of, the service industry. And, I've done, different things inside the military. Like we want that on there and you should definitely put it on there. So you want to, and also like if you volunteer with different organizations in your community, we want to see that too, because we like it's known that more holistic and well-rounded people who are committed to communities, which you all have been and committed to our country, is so valuable, and that's something that really adds a lot of value to your professional profile. So you want to, I think this is really key. If there's one thing to clock in on what I'm saying, is you want to make sure the algorithm finds you. So you have this person right here who is a LinkedIn member, and they're putting their service activity, and they're saying, "Hey, I was a commander in the International Security Assistance Force in Afghanistan. I was a commander on the Joint Special Operations Command," right? And the algorithm doesn't actually recognize you as a veteran when you list your experiences in this way, right? It really has no way of telling, because we have a specific way of how we do. We tell people are veterans or not. And there's a different way to do that, and I'm going to show you that right now. So this is a great example of how to represent your service. So this is Stan McChrystal. Is a Wall Street Journal bestseller, and you can see that like he lists as the company the branch of service that he served in, right? So he was a part of U.S. Army, and you want that to be the company that, as you put your experiences on. So if you're like Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Marines, like all of those, you want that to be the company, and then you want the title of what your job is, and you want to translate that into the civilian world, right? So and when you put your service branch as a company, the LinkedIn platform and algorithm activates you as a veteran. So recruiters can look for specific veteran talent. So you definitely want to do that. You don't want to just list like how it was before in this previous slide of, hey, this is just I served, I would in the way that's presented here. You want to list your branch as the company. So, and this is really another key factor of like, how do you, this is a challenge of how do you articulate your military and career experience? And it's kind of, and it's sometimes it can be really challenging depending on how you served or how you're currently serving. It's like, it's how do you say, how do I not boil down, but how do I transfer to for folks who are not in the space to get a sense of what I've done in a way that shows progression, in a way that in a way that shows your skills. And if you were in logistics, right, you can say, hey, I was a part of supply chain, or maybe I was a part of operations, right? These are terms that recruiters and people and companies understand, right? And that allows you to, if you were in operations, maybe that like helps you go into producing, or maybe that helps you think of, if you were a recruiter yourself, you're like, hey, like I can go into talent development, right? And I can start to think about, I know how to pick people out that are great talent and motivate them towards a goal. And that's something that you want to work on and articulate. How does this make sense for people who don't understand my space? How do I translate that? And that's going to be really key on the platform and how you navigate trying to get that next play in the entertainment industry. So add it all. You want everything on your profile. The more information, the better. So we want if you have educational credentials, we want that on the platform. If you have licenses, if you have certifications, if you have different badges that you acquired, right? Like when you put these things on there, people find you more. It's all about how do you get found? How do people see who you are? How do people look at your profile? And the more things you put on there, the more it's like, okay, Kevo volunteered here. He studied in this way. He has this credential. He has this skill, and it allows you to get seen. So if you think, oh, should I put this on there? Like, put it on there. It's going to help you. It doesn't hurt. Definitely add it to the platform. Again, volunteer experience, so important. It helps, again, more profile, 6 times more people get profile views who mention their volunteering. So we want to know, like, how are you serving your community? How are you caring for people? And that's something that you've already done. And how do you do that in the civilian world? How do you serve with different folks? And whether that's a food kitchen or a soup kitchen, whether that's dealing with people who don't have homes, whether that's mentoring folks like other veterans, like, you want that on there, and it helps. Maybe when you transition, where you're transitioning out, like maybe you didn't land that first job yet, maybe you volunteered with your local kind of organization, and it shows like, hey, like, it demonstrates commitment, helps you build a skill, even leads to a recommendation for a job, or even fills an employment gap. So include your volunteer experience. So when you edit your profile and your skills and your endorsements, right? Like, when you add your skills, you are 4 times more likely to be found. Actually, 17 more likely to see profile views, and you're 20% more likely to be found by recruiters. So add your skills and endorsements. It's like, hey, if Kayvel is good at public speaking, Kayvel is good at financial analysis, if he's good at management, if he's good at recruiting, if he's good at production, if he's good at operations, right? Like, you want to put that on there. And then what happens is, on the platform, your friends, the people in your network, can say, hey, like, Kayvel's actually good at public speaking. He's actually good at management. He's actually good at whatever your skill set is. And it helps you drive your appearance in recruiter searches. Also, y'all, I forgot to mention this. If you can't read, or it's a little too small, use the box in the corner to expand to full view, where you can see the slides a little bit better. Sorry if I didn't say that in the beginning. So I know there's really important information on here. So how do recruiters see you? This is the curtain. This is the other side of the table. So recruiters at ViacomCBS, where I used to work, or HBO or Netflix, they use LinkedIn Recruiter because they are our customers, and they look at this platform, which you're seeing right in front of you. They search by job title. They want a program manager, or a director, or a producer, or a production management person. They look at the location, and then what they can do is they can look at, like, hey, like, I want to hire veterans. I want to hire military spouses. I want to hire these folks, and they can actively search on their side, LinkedIn Recruiter, to look for you. Right? Which is amazing. But if you're not, again, listing your branch of service as a company, you don't show up in this delimiter. Right? So it's a twofold of, like, you need to raise your hand and identify yourself, your platform, as a veteran. And then the recruiters can find who you are, because we set up in the platform in that way. Right? And then, which is a really meaningful way of, like, this is how you get found by people who have access to opportunity. So how do you land in a recruiter's net, right? List your military experience properly. Having a profile photo, because they can find you easier. List more than 5 skills that you have. You're 27 more times likely to get discovered by a recruiter. And this is a really big one, especially in remote work or hybrid work, including the city in which you're based, and makes you stand out. Honestly, recruiters are going to go through the path of least resistance. I know folks move around all the time, but if they have a role that is teetering on remote or in person or hybrid, and it's in New York, or maybe it's in LA because it's in entertainment, and you want to list that, like, maybe you're not there yet, but maybe you list that you put your location as the location that you're willing to move to, because that helps, just for the sake of the recruiter finding you. If you live in Nebraska, but you really want to, like, I want to go to New York, I want to go to LA to work in entertainment, put that you live there, right? Because it allows them to find you. Then you can have the conversation of, like, hey, I'm willing to relocate, if that all makes sense. So these 4 bullets is how a recruiter actually sees you and messages you and sees your application. So networks, we talk about it all the time. That was the platform. That's how to present yourself. And I know I'm going through this really quickly, but how do you maintain your networks and build out, saying, how do I get access to opportunity through other people and build rapport with folks? I know I only have 10 minutes, so I'll try to speed through this. So you can discover new people, message people. You can ask for informational interviews. You can refresh referrals. Like, your network is super important, and LinkedIn will help you build it. This is what we're here to do. So You can on the platform, you can search for folks. You can say, hey, like who works at Viacom, who works at HBO, who works at Netflix, who works at Jigsaw Productions, who works at Stars, who works at Showtime, who works at CBS, who works at the NFL, and you can start to see like who are those people and how do you find them. And I've been found so many times by different folks who are trying to get into the CSR space. So definitely leverage this search tool. So very key, expand your network strategically. You want to add people, right, who you shared your similar background, and maybe they don't, that's totally okay. Or people who you want to get to know. Like if you're like, hey, I want to be a director, like add directors. If you want to, if you want to be a producer, if you want to be a writer, like find those people on the search and message them and saying, hey, like we met at this talk and I would really love to keep your network. You just don't want to send something blank because there's no personalization to it. You want to say like, hey, like this is who I am, this is who I would love to connect. And that's a really great way to expand your network. So if there's the biggest major key to expanding your network is informational interviews. It's asking someone, hey, I want to learn about your space. I want to learn about who you are. I want to learn about I want to learn about your story. And it's establishing a bond and asking for advice. And people are so open to doing this and willing to connect and saying, hey, like this is how I got here. And then because you have DM credits, which you see in the corner with the premium, you can type a more elongated message and saying, hey, like I'm this person. I'm really looking to love to connect with you, and I want to learn about your space. And now you're setting up that informational interview to learn about a space that you don't already have access to, and that helps you build your network and build the knowledge of the space you're trying to enter into. Home stretch, y'all. So networking, how it's important. She knows these 3 people, right? That's her immediate network, right? And then it grows to those people know these other people, with Sarah in the corner. And then it grows again to other people of like your first degree, your second degree, your third degree connections. So when you network well, you start to get to people you don't already have access to. But when you grow your network, it's like, okay, like, hey, like, can you introduce me to so and so? And then that person can introduce you to so and so. And that maybe that third so and so is the person who actually can refer you to a job. So it behooves you to connect with people and always expand your network and reach out and learn about who's who and leverage the network that you already have to get to the networks that you don't have, if that makes sense. So this is another thing. Transactional networking is something you don't want to do. You don't want to be like, hey, like, I just want to talk to you to get a job. I want to talk to you to get information. It's like, hey, like, I want to add value. I want to, on the platform, I want to share things that people on my network will care about. So if I'm sharing jobs, sharing opportunities, sharing fellowships, sharing information, webinars, that's helpful. On the platform, give testimonials, give recommendations to people, show love to people, invest time in your connections, like their content, talk to them, reach out to them, take them to lunch, right? Like share your expertise. Like once you get into your role, the expertise that you already have, like we want to hear your voice, post on the platform. And then also pass the baton, right? If you know somebody and you know someone else have access to something, like say like, hey, I'm gonna meet my buddy, right? Do that for folks that are in your network who don't have access to folks. You definitely want to say like, how do I build a network for other people as well? So that's something super valuable. So how do you find your way into new opportunities? And we're closing out here, but show your recruiters you're open to work. There's a way you can do that on the platform. You can say, hey, like I'm actually looking for a job. You can show that on the platform, and I'll speed through this a little bit because I know we don't have a lot of time. And indicate whether you're casually looking for work or maybe you want recruiters to know that you're, more active. Like, and there's a way to do that on the platform. You can see that in the corner on the left. And these are the different ways that you can do it. And this is on the platform of the different screenshots. And I'll share this presentation of you can see how you actually do it. So you go to your profile and share that you're open to work. And then, so we went over your profile, how to ask for information, how to grow your network. And then here's how you search for jobs. So it's like search by keyword. So entertainment, job titles, production manager, Netflix, and then LA, right? Like that's just like a way that you can do it. And these are ways that like you can, similar to other job boards, you can get a really specific call out on the type of job you're looking for. And that's something that I was able to do and seeing like how everything stacks up and what comes through my feed. So there's a lot to go through. You can get a lot of feed of the jobs that you want, but I know we're close to time and I want to open it up for questions. But if there is one thing for you to remember of what I'm talking about in this presentation is go to linkedin.com/military, and you will, that is your source of truth, and that'll allow you to follow up on like the content I've created today and produced, and is the one-stop shop for you all. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I know this is super fast. I know it's a lot of information, and I'm really honored and grateful to present to you all today. And I know we have like 5 more minutes, so I'll open it up for questions and I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay, it says when people are multi-hyphenated as an artist, works on production side as well, how should they best set up their profiles, share both, or choose one? Does it hurt people when they do both? I think when they're multi-hyphenated, it helps, right? Like it shows you like who you are and the multiple skill sets that you have. So you come up in multiple searches, right? Like if you're saying, hey, like I'm a writer and a producer, it's like, oh, like I have a production role, but actually we need a writer too. And they see that you have that skill set. Otherwise, they don't know if you have that skill set, right? Like they have no idea. They think that you're this one-dimensional person. So I think empower yourself to say, hey, like I am this multi-hyphenated person, and I'm going to show up in that way, and that's the full package that you get. How should I structure my profile if my military career doesn't translate to what I would do at a civilian, but I'm currently taking courses for it? This is a really interesting question. Um, I think that try your best to translate it, even if it's just the nomenclature, like how you name it, right? But you can also say like you can put in your experience of saying, hey, I'm a student, right? And I've seen students do that all the time. I've seen folks who are in training programs and say like as an experience, like that as your present company or your present job is I'm a fellow, I'm a trainee, I'm a student, I'm learning, right? At this specific thing. I'm enrolled in I'm in Coursera, right? Like but you still want your military experience on there, but you don't have to be so tight about like, oh, if I'm not employed somewhere, then I can't put that as an experience as my current experience. You want to put that like, hey, I'm a fellow or a trainee with X, Y, and Z organization, if that's helpful. I'm trying to build a career in the creative field, but my resume is 50% creative and 50% law enforcement. Is it better to fill my LinkedIn career with everything or only show my creative experience? That's a really good question. I think that if you, especially if you're military, like you want that military experience on there at minimum, at least one or two, how many experience that you have on there, so you can get identified for the algorithm, which we talked about, and then I think, you can show your law enforcement things and see that you're making a pivot, and people can, because people may ask about employment gaps. So I think it makes sense to put it on there, but be like, I think, and the placement of it all could be helpful. Like if you want your creative expertise to be upfront, like put that up front. Also, that's where your summary comes into play. That's where your headline comes into play. That's where all your skill sets come into play with. So people start to see, okay, like this person did law enforcement, but like they've done a lot of work in the creative field, and that's how they're trying to present themselves. What can artists best optimize how can artists network on the platform? I think have a portfolio. People put your projects, put or put the link to your own personal portfolio. If you don't have one, put it on there. And showcase your work, right? I know folks that like put it in a post like, hey y'all, this is a cool project that I put on, just putting it out there of I worked on this ad campaign for, I don't know, Gatorade, right? Like I think it's really important that you showcase yourself and really say like drive people to your content, drive people to the things that you create. I think is a way that you can bring yourself as an artist and expand your network. But also just like asking folks, right? Like saying like, hey, how can I connect with you? Can I have an informational interview? Like, hey, I'm an artist and I'm trying to figure out how do I be an artist in the entertainment industry. I've done it in other industries. I'm trying to make that transition. And I think if you do the things that we talked about today, that like that's across the board. But I think specifically for artists, is like drive people to the content. If you're an artist, people want to we want to see the things that you create. Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to. It says, sorry, y'all, I'm trying to see it. It says, sorry, it went down. If we can present that question one more time. I know I have 1 minute, so I think someone rap me. um, hello. Oh, so, okay, I can rap. Hey, y'all. So thank you so much for your questions. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. It's a pleasure to connect with you. And apologies for this technical difficulties. And it's a pleasure. You're going to make that next play. I hope to see you all in the entertainment space. And keep pushing, keep going. You're gonna make your next move. I'm so excited to meet you all. Thank you so much for your time.